UPA, Mavericks, Magic, and Magoo. Nearly 50 years later, UPA films are enjoyed by audiences in many corners of the world. This UPA tribute at the American Film Institute in Los Angeles even included an impromptu panel of UPA alumni.
A lot of people hated UPA. I mean, the Disney people. They just thought they were the evil empire.
The UPA story is a compelling story of dedicated artists willing to go against the status quo to produce films that stimulated as well as entertained.
We really knocked everybody on the rear.
Jules Engle was a major maverick. As the principal background artist during the height of UPA, Jules was one of the prime contributors to creating that UPA look.
It changed the whole aspect, what animation is about, what color is all about, what story is all about. And we had all that going for us.
The press paid almost no attention to cartoon shorts. But when the UPA cartoons came along, suddenly Time magazine was writing them up. They knew, the New York Times knew, everybody knew that there was something bold and fresh and exciting on the scene, and this was not business as usual.
Among the rising stars of UPA was then animator Bill Melendez, who later went on to direct the Peanut specials. In this 1951 TV show on UPA, he explains how Christopher Crumpet was animated.
What we would do is we go from step to step. He might be something like this.
Whenever he couldn't have his own way, he would imagine he was a chicken. And then he really was a chicken.
Over 50 years later, Bill Melendez watches Christopher Crumpet again, for the first time since his UPA days.
At UPA, we only used cartoons to help what was happening, to the characters. Detailed and fancy background, we didn't need them. Most of the time it was great to do just like that. Stage it just with what's what's happening animation-wise. That came in from a crummy little studio like UPA, not from Disney. At Disney, they would make this look like live action, and we did it just the opposite. See, that's a good design, see? There it is. Stands out, clear and clean, and you can see it and feast your eyes on it for a while.
The key to UPA animation was not limited animation, it was unlimited animation. It was the idea that every story should have its own kind of design.
And the loan sharks were following.
The UPA was the first studio to come out without a house style.
2x2, 2x2.
UPA was the first studio to say any style in the world.
Starring Daddy and Happy.
Any graphic style, any style of any artist, anything that you can imagine is possible to animate.
Daddy, look! A bee house!
Ouch!
16-year-old Alan Zaslov left Warner Brothers to join UPA in its earliest days.
Even as really a snot-nosed kid in his teens, I realized that we were pretty much up at the cutting edge in design and ideas. I mean, the people that came in there, stuff of John Hubley's films were so unique to this day, they still look really contemporary.
Toot-toot when Frankie's done, right through that hardwood door, she shot him.
No, this is not a UPA film, but the opening title sequence of Pixar's Monsters, Inc., created by G. Bodo, an early admirer of the UPA magic.
When all the elements magically come together, and of course it's never magic, it's always sweat and tear and pain, and it's a lot of work to get the magic to happen.
Jeff Pigeon is another Pixar artist who saw his first UPA films while attending CalArts, where Jules Engle was teaching.
I've drawn ever since I was little, so for me, I think for me I was just pulled to this style like a magnet, having a window, a rug, and a chair, and it's like you're done. There's a living room. It's allowing the audience to fill in the blanks a little bit, which I think is really nice. And plus, there's just nice things like I've always really loved when he walks to school and there's that little hop. It's not literally what kids do, but it gives you the feeling, and it's just really nice.
I remember, I think he did it. We were on Hollywood Boulevard, and Bob did that, hopping around like a little bunny rabbit, you know, because he was thinking always. He had to put that thinking into movement.
Joe Siracusa left the Spike Jones City Slickers band to join UPA.
Spike always said I thought like cartoons, and I had a couple of small visual gags, but my primary interest was sound effects. Remember Gerald McBoing Boing? This is how this thing originated. And when you record that and add to it, that's the sound of Gerald McBoing Boing.
This is a clip from Jay Ward's Rocky the Flying Squirrel, where many artists went after UPA, and they didn't leave their talent behind.
Boy, that's right neighborly of you.
The great UPA writer Bill Scott was the voice of Bullwinkle and the show's head writer.
It all starts with the script, really. And I think the Magoos were beautifully done. The script was great, and then the acting. I mean, Jim Backus's voice as Mr. Magoo, it was perfect.
16, please. Nice weather we're having. Don't keep reflecting.
Oogly oomba, boomba, ocky, gawky.
I come across something funny in a newspaper, and I see it has a rhythm I like. For example, average giraffe. I saw a thing in the Valley paper, and it said, the average giraffe has a tongue 17 inches long. Well, that broke me up. So I figured the average giraffe has a tongue 17 inches long. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Hell.
The average giraffe has a tongue 17 inches long.
Oogly oomba, boomba.
The average giraffe is all right, but he looks so all wrong.
Oogly awky, gawky.
Well, Telltale Heart is to me an exemplary piece. It's so striking
Then I heard
in
it.
every aspect.
It might have been a hand.
Designed by Paul Julian.
Louder, and still louder.
Vocal performance by James Mason.
Yet they sit and talk and talk. They must. Of course they do. They know they do. They're torturing me, watching me, letting it beat so that I... Stop it! Stop it, you devils! Yes, I did it. It's there, under the floor. Oh, stop it!
It's one of those things that just kind of burns into the retina of your mind. It's just these images that are just really strong.
Many feel the greatest maverick at UPA was Robert Cannon.
We had something really unique and classic in the book itself and decided to try and bring the book to life on the screen. In 2 straight lines, they broke their bread, and we had a way of getting them into this position in that they whirl around, and as they sit down, the table that they are seated at here is faded in.
In 2 straight lines, they broke their bread and brushed their teeth and went to bed.
Bob was definitely one of the best animators that ever was. I mean, he was a superb animator, and but not just a character animator. Bob was very much a designer animator, where he thought in terms of patterns of movement and timings.
Which is really nice to see animation being treated very imaginatively. It has a great sense of drama, like using the color and the scale of the train. You get a sense of beauty and a sense of a bit of fear and anxiety, and that's summed up really well there.
Stop!
Gerald McBoing Boing is one of the greatest cartoons ever made.
This is the story of Gerald McCloy and the strange thing that happened to that little boy.
It's a perfect marriage of form and content. It's not just that it uses a bold graphic design, but that's married to a really inventive and delightful script.
He went instead.
All rolled into one little cartoon. But it's a perfect cartoon. It's an extraordinary piece of art. It's not just a piece of entertainment, it's also a piece of art. And those are not mutually exclusive. UPA proved that those two entities could be one and the same.
And we were a bunch of yokel cartoonists, but we were admired by, we had a fan, I mean, some fans, that's what tickled our fancy. Can you imagine? We at UPA have fans?
Oh, splendid program. I enjoyed every thrill-packed minute of it. Only one complaint, no cartoon. Oh, do you ever run those cartoons about that ridiculous little nearsighted old man? You know, the one that goes, oh, it might be anything.
Ce n'est pas encore la fin. Nous avons commencé le premier film sur UPA Pictures. Le Boing, cela a choqué le monde, pour montrer au festival l'année prochaine. Bonsoir, je m'appelle T. Basesto. Je suis une des filles de Stephen Basesto, le chef d'UPA pendant les années de les courts-métrages de Columbia Pictures et le programme télévision de CBS. Nous sommes en train de produire une série de documentaires sur les films et les artistes de UPA Pictures. Ce que vous voyez maintenant est les images de... excusez-moi, mais il faut que je parle anglais. Évidemment, mon français est très mauvais. So, these are images from the storyboard of the animated opening of our first UPA documentary, The Boing That Shook the World. It will focus on Bob Cannon, who directed Gerald McBoing Boing and many other groundbreaking films at UPA. We've shot most of the interviews, but there's still a few more to do, and then we begin the editing process. So here's a few clips from some of the people talking about UPA and Bob Cannon.
At UPA we had what we referred to as a unit system, where at Disney's we all worked on what we referred to as an assembly line. There was one story department, one animation department, one layout department, one background department, where at UPA we had story departments for each of the different units and a different director and different animation. They all worked together in units of 5, 6, 8 people. And it worked very, very well. As a matter of fact, when we did Gerald McBoing Boing, we walked away with an Academy Award. That was about 1951.
I remember very well when I was 16, I saw Gerald McBoing Boing. And I saw the scene where he tries to get his father's attention, and his father keeps on shaving, so he goes, and his father orders him out of the bathroom. And I found that so touching, and the setup of the cartoon was such that you were really, really moved because you were into this little kid, and I thought, this is a masterpiece. I mean, this is one of the greatest film experiences I've had in my life. I don't just mean animation, I mean film.
When you are a director who can choose his own people, then you can do daring things. For example, Gerald McBoing Boing Symphony. When the boy tries to follow the sheets of music, his dress is red and the room around him is yellow. But the more the situation becomes dramatic, the surrounding area becomes red. So this is a psychological changing, which is already daring. But second, you have red on red, which was very daring in those times.
Bob Cannon's characters were always very appealing, and when he was, most directors in those days would, at the very least, make roughs of key positions in the scene. Some directors, like Cannon, would put more of the poses into the scene, not just showing where the character stands, but what poses they go through during the animation and a rough idea of how it's going to get from here to there.
They were working on Willie the Kid, and he had the fellows in his unit at the studio bring their kids out to play in our backyard, to play cowboys and Indians. And he and T ended up tied to a post, and the kids were all around him with guns and carrying on, just because he wanted to see how the kids reacted when they were playing that way, because that's what Willie was all about, being in his imagination then.
If you'd like to stay up to date on our progress or become involved in the production or funding of the documentaries on UPA, please contact us through our website. Looking forward to talking with you from all of us on the UPA documentary team.